decades. Couple more. Cool. All right. So what I'll pretty much do is I'll just say like this little intro, and then we just kind of like know it. All right. So I'm Jordan Ryan, and welcome to the Mind Body Mushroom, the podcast where we explore the magic of mushrooms, adaptogens, and all the ways you can naturally upgrade your health and well-being. Each week, we break down the science behind medicinal mushrooms, ancient healing wisdoms, and share some truly mind-blowing stories of transformation. Whether you're looking to sharpen your mental clarity, better health, or a deeper connection with yourself, you're exactly where you need to be. Today, my guest is Luke Simianer, Army veteran and founder of and CEO of vetclaims.ai. As I mentioned in the bio, we usually talk about ways of upgrading your health and all the ways you can naturally upgrade your health, which probably brings to mind things you can supplement with, or ice baths, or yoga. But if you're really looking at a holistic picture, trying to eliminate other types of stressors like financial stressors, or if you're looking at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, there you have needs and stressors in your life that have to do with identity and accomplishment, this idea of success. And so, looking at it from the perspective of veterans, and this is something that I've talked about before with other guests and on other podcasts, has been the difficulty that all veterans have, regardless of their service, how long they are in, what they did with that transition period. Going from an organization where you have a lot of identity, you know where you stand, you literally have rank. And there's a culture, there's a camaraderie, there's a shared experience, and like almost like a trauma bonding that you have with this group. And then it will come to an end one way or another. At some point, you will need to transition, and that can be really challenging for a lot of veterans, figuring out what that next piece is and who they are, and what is the next marker for success. So one thing that Luke and I, just in our brief little pre-show, when I was kind of asking him about his company, and we'll get into that, is um, how can you set veterans up to successfully transfer so that they can mitigate some of those additional stressors beyond just their physical health and well-being. So, Luke, thank you for coming on the show. Do you want to just start by maybe giving like a little intro just to yourself and a little bit about your company, maybe a little bit of your service? We'll go into all this stuff a little bit deeper, but just high
Yeah.
level.
No, thanks for having me, man. It's an honor. And I think the Win and See Coffee Company is very cool. I'm excited to dig in and hear more about that too, because mushrooms have played a bit of a role in my my journey. Um, yeah, so I'm Luke Simianer, CEO and founder of vetclaims.ai. Prior to that, I was the CEO and founder of a company called Clusive.io. What Clusive was is it was the world's first e-learning platform built for and by people who were blind. We sold into government agencies all around the country, raised a little over 4 million in venture, did some crazy things, made my way through pretty much every veteran nonprofit that deals with business. So happy to dig into all that. But prior to that, which sounds really cool and sounds successful and fun, there was a lot of grind, obviously, and even that was still very much a grind. But I joined the Army in 2010 at the ripe old age of 17. My mom had to sign the permission slip. I graduated Airborne school, still at the age of 17. I got sent to the 82nd. Deployed 2 years later in 2012 to Afghanistan, where I was wounded. And I just, to be clear, I didn't like the Army. I had re-enlisted overseas because I enjoyed being deployed. And thought, if I can go to another unit that'll just deploy again and I can avoid the garrison horse and pony show, great. But I got wounded shortly thereafter, and that ended my time. So I was in and out of the Army with a fresh load of trauma and madness, all before I was 21, before I had could buy my first legal drink. And then I was homeless because the Army shorted me on my last check. It was a mess, blah, blah, blah. That's a whole other story. But point being, I found my way to college, and then I realized I was good at it. And I started, there's some pivotal moments, but ultimately I realized I wanted to live a life worth writing about, and that's what led me to here.
That's amazing, dude. What a crazy story coming in at such a young age. I think that's really hard for people to kind of. So I enlisted at, I think I was 22, 23 by the time I enlisted. So, I did undergraduate school. I went to University of Oregon. I was, in college, doing that whole thing. And so I feel like I got that experience, and I kind of came into the military, maybe not fully formed, but like not as impressionable as a 17-year-old or 18, someone that's
Yeah.
coming just straight out of their parents' house. And so I can only imagine how much identity gets put into you coming from like, all right, now I'm a high schooler. No, now I'm a freaking airborne, 82nd. Like this
Yeah.
is, uh, it's a big jump kind of into going from nothing into going to something that has so much. And so let's back up a little bit just to talk about kind
Yeah.
of your upbringing. Like, where'd you grow up?
So I was born in Nebraska in a small town, Scottsbluff. I think it had like 12,000 people at that point. Now it's like 21,000. But I was raised in Roanoke, Virginia, in some really shitty Section 8 apartments. And,
Oh, wow.
so that was my single mom, had my grandma. That was my upbringing. Interesting cultural mix.
Right, right. And so was the army kind of just an escape? Was it just sort of like a something sounded fun, or were you kind of running away from home?
No, I'd ran away from home at 16. I pawned my stepdad's TV, got a Greyhound bus ticket to Baltimore, and like found my way to my aunt's house through like some like I mean shit. I went through my own little version of SEER school because Baltimore's never been um and, and I don't know if you've ever been on a Greyhound bus, but that's its own
Oh
version of
yeah.
SEER school in and of
Oh,
itself.
100%.
Yeah, like sit next to one guy. What'd you do? Killed some people. Okay, great. What'd
Yeah,
you do?
yeah.
Rape. Oh, okay, we're gonna go sit by the murder.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Humanize, humanize.
Yes, yes.
That's so funny.
Oh shit.
Wow.
But no, I told my mom. I said I'd come home, but only if you sign the permission slip for me to get out, emancipate
Hmm.
me. And so I got a contract with the
Yeah.
Air Force. I trained and I trained
Mm.
and I trained and I passed. I think at that point it was called the pass test because I like really wanted to be a PJ. And
Hmm.
they're like, oh, if you do it, you'd be like the youngest dude to go through pipe if you actually made it, blah, blah, blah.
Hmm.
And then a week before I was supposed to ship, they're like, ah, man, class is full. You're gonna have to wait 8 months. But you're holding your job spot, your pipeline spot. And I was like, I can't wait 8 months, dude. Like, I'm gonna lose my shit. So
I get
I
you.
went, I went to the Marines and I was like, yeah, I
Mm.
want like a cool job. And they're like, you get to be a fucking Marine and that's good enough.
Mhm.
I was like,
Mhm. And
yeah, I don't
anything
know.
cooler than being a Marine?
I don't know about it. I don't know if I agree with that one, man.
Right.
Anyways, I wanted to pick my job. I wanted to be
Yeah.
naive young me was like, I want to be in the shit. And
Yeah.
so I told the army guys, I was like, I want a job. I want to go be in the shit. I know I can't go to SFAS because you have to be 21. What's cool? And they're like, oh, you could be a Cav Scout. And I was like, they showed me this video with ATVs and dirt bikes and machine guns. And I'm like, hell yeah, bro. And so
Yeah.
I never got my fucking dirt bike, but, but,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Fuckers.
but yeah, so it was definitely an escape, and I signed with the army because they got me
Yeah.
shipped 2 months.
Yeah. Wow. Crazy. Okay, cool. So then you go in, do your boot camp, hit I forget what the like advanced school,
AIT,
like
yeah.
AIT, yeah, right. AIT, and then from there, is it like a striking process, or like you have to submit a package, or was there like what was sort of the transition from AIT into 82nd, or was that your AIT?
No, so AIT for Cav Scouts at this point, it was one station training at Fort Knox. So you went to basic, got like a 2 day weekend, and then you went back to the same drill instructors for AIT because they were scouts too. And our AIT was just a lot of land nav. You got to drive a Bradley. That was a memorable experience and shoot the
Mhm. Yeah,
Bradley. Those are sick
that's kind of
vehicles.
cool. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Um, and then they put you on a bus and you go to Fort Benning for airborne school. Um, and that was pretty wild. I mean, airborne school, like in retrospect, is an absolute insane thing. Not
Insane
not because it's
in a
like
good way or
yeah,
cool.
not because it's like hard, like it's not like SFAS where you're really like pushing yourself. It's just dumb. Like you literally
Yeah.
throw yourself at the ground 70
Yeah.
times a day for 3 weeks, and then at the end of it, you jump out of planes and hope you don't get hurt.
Right.
It's
I
honestly
bet so
pretty.
many people whose careers have ended because of Army jump school and just like good dudes, like hard, you know, absolutely had a career
Yeah,
in SF, not Army SF, but just like special operations in general. And then yeah, because of that, they break a femur or have some like pretty
yeah.
catastrophic accident that's just the result of yeah, like a stupid jump school.
Like I was 17 and I was beat the hell up every day. I was like, how are people that are E6s been in a decade?
Right,
How are you existing? I mean, in retrospect, I'm 31 now, and I'm like, dude, if someone told me, gave me the proposition of going to jump school, like, I'm not a baby. I'm still a tough dude, but like, I'd tell you,
right.
fuck off. Like, no,
Yeah, right. I'm like,
no
I'm not
way.
stupid. Does
Uh,
the 82nd when they're like in country when you're actually like deploying and running ops, are you guys doing a lot of static line or do they at some point you doing Halo or just like free
no.
fall?
No, I mean it's all tiered. So like your normal guys are doing like I don't remember the nomenclature for the parachutes, but the normal parachutes. And then
Yeah.
like the half cool guys like PsyOps, they're doing like the MC6s where they're like steerable. And the
Mm.
Pathfinders I think had those too. And the engineers have some cool shit where they like have like a full face mask and like an armor suit so they can jump into trees. Um,
Oh,
those
interesting.
and not get broken, I guess, or impaled.
Yeah,
Uh,
right.
I don't know how that works for them, but then like the green beanies they get to do the halo hey ho stuff,
Hmm.
but no, like in while you're in the states in garrison, there's a big, you have to jump, what was it, every month, every 30 days to maintain pay status, or every so
Oh
often to
shit, no
maintain pay
way.
status. I don't remember if it's 30 or 90, but it's not much money. It's $158 a month for to hit the ground at
Right.
18 miles an hour. Like it's really
Right.
not a good incentive, but regardless, they make it fun. There's a lot of esprit de corps. And I will say
Mm.
this, like the most terrifying thing about the 82nd, like if I was a foreign country, is that you have a bunch of reckless ass 18, 19, 21-year olds
Yeah,
that are willing to jump out of an airplane with a
right.
parachute that was packed by a guy who hates his fucking life because the rig.
Right. Oh, dude, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that's the worst job in the I think they have the highest suicide rate. It is the worst job in the military because it's so stressful.
Really?
Oh yeah. Drug abuse,
And you get all the like stress of skydiving with none of the fun parts of skydiving,
absolutely.
basically.
Yeah, and if something goes wrong, it's
Gnarly.
all
It's
on
your
you.
fault.
And
Yeah,
it's
right.
got your initials on it.
Yeah, it's
Like
like
legit.
mad survivor's guilt kind of deal too, because
Yeah.
it's not like, oh, I screwed up my parachute that I died,
Yeah.
using. It's like, yeah, somebody else
And
did.
sometimes
Wow, that's interesting.
even if it's packed perfect, it can still get twisted. Life happens. But anyways, like the fact that those dudes are hitting the ground and it doesn't even matter if they know the guy next to him. It's the little group of paratrooper effect. And that's
Right,
the most terrifying thing for any enemy force.
for
And,
sure.
like, of course, I don't know if we'll ever conventionally use that again. But the esprit de corps for if it ever needed to be used
Yeah.
was, yeah,
Totally. I mean, it's a legacied unit, with a lot of history and the esprit de corps for sure. So as you kind of get to Afghanistan, you're not static line jumping into stuff. So what is sort of the role of the 82nd in a theater where they're kind of, you're arriving with by a C-130 and you're probably hitting like Bagram or something like that,
yeah, like
or HK.
mission sets that weren't cool enough for the long tabbers, uh,
Mm-hmm.
but you didn't want to just give to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
holding really shitty places. Um, I think it was us and 2ID were, and 10th Mountain on occasion too, were the ones that
Mm.
like, oh, these battalions, because like 4th Brigade 82nd, where I was, that brigade, it no longer exists, but it only existed to
Mm.
support GWAT. So if you were in 4th Brigade, if you were in 4th Brigade for 10 years, you got 5 tours, 8 tours. You know, like I don't know the
Wow.
actual number. Someone out there might yell at me about that, but like they went and went and went and went and went.
Yeah,
And
you're
so
just
the
hitting it.
level of combat experience within that troop and the 82nd especially, because having the airborne qualifier, it limited where you could go. So you're only going to Fort Bragg or Fort Richardson. And if you're already at Fort Bragg and 4th Brigade, they're not going to move you to a different brigade. So that means
Huh.
our combat experience stayed in our unit,
Wow.
which of course that force multiplies lethality, you know?
Oh, for sure. I mean, so much is lost in just like the turnover when you, and then you're getting new guys and you got to get them up to speed and maybe they're a little more green. You
Yeah.
know, that was so I entered the military going down a special operations route. I initially went to BUDS, so SEAL training. Um, Made it a few weeks into training, washed out of training, went to the fleet, and then I went back in the Marine Special Operations as a corpsman, as a medic.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
but so I mean, I had 75% of my military service was in special operations training,
Yeah.
and I knew guys that were, you know, quad zero or like 8404 corpsmen. So got, just like a green side corpsman working with the Marines that are going to Afghanistan, getting combat action ribbons and stuff like this, just because by virtue of the fact that like they're actually out there in country where they're needed. And I know a lot of guys that, by the time they actually got like a cool deployment in special operations, it was like their second or third deployment and they've been in 7 years, you know?
Damn.
So yeah, meanwhile, there was, I think Army National Guard was another one of those, like, you would never think if you were like a GWAT National Guard unit, like, dude, you were getting recycled back in there like every 3 months. You were like going back over and going into like real combat, situations or just shitty areas that, stuff could pop off.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's like just because you went soft does not mean that you got more combat experience or anything like that. There's no
No, I
substitute
think
for it.
it's just a different world. I think they're
Yeah.
um it's very interesting. This I would say with Fort Bragg and the conventional army at Fort Bragg, they did such an amazing job, and I hypothesize it's intentional. They make life so miserable in garrison that when you go to war, that shit's a vacation.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it was so anal retentive with regulations, with stupidity, I mean, I've never functionally dealt with anything as dumb as that stuff,
Hmm.
but it worked.
Hmm.
That was the last
You're
thing.
just chomping at the bit to go.
Oh, I mean, I remember they picked it up on what was that tool called that picked up the ICOM chatter? Wolfhound. They picked up the enemy chatter, and they called us the Circle Square Tribe. And they were like, "Nah, nah, don't fuck with them."
Just wait, just wait.
Yeah, like wait till someone that we don't like have a nickname for their patch rolls by,
Yeah,
and it's
right,
like
right.
they had long beards and Circle Square Tribe, and you can tell who those people were.
Yeah, that breaks it down.
Yeah,
That's
and it
so
was
funny.
like so that I mean, in sense that felt good, but no, I mean
Yeah.
the army for me, I was never a good soldier, and I mean it makes sense, like
Mhm.
especially with what I
Yeah,
do in life now, like
totally. Totally.
I wasn't the dude that just listened, and it wasn't that I was
Hmm.
um trying to be disrespectful. It was like I want to understand because if I don't understand, I can't grow,
Yeah.
and you're not
That
teaching.
was like the hardest thing I felt like between like the Marine Corps versus like Navy stuff is like it's very much, you want to convey the sense of why. And it doesn't always happen, it's still a fucking military, but you know what I mean? Like you're gonna get better. You want thinking shooters. That's like thinking shooters, problem solvers. This concept, which you're not really going to get by just like shut up and do what you're being told. But the Marine Corps mindset, again, I'm coming from the blue side, but a lot of the guys that are like homegrown, recon and MARSOC Marines, they're Marines, true and true.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's like if you give them a spoon and told them to dig to China, like they would they would do it. And I'd be like,
um,
hold on, why are we using spoons? Can we find something bigger? What's in China? What do we need to. And
yeah.
that's serves you well as an entrepreneur, but can kind of, it's like oil and water when it in the military.
Well, yeah, it's a shitty forcing mechanism because they have to. I mean, that people make jokes about the Marines having ASVAB waivers. I remember we had a dude in basic that like no shit could not tie his own shoes. And that's no hate to him. Like the recruiters, whatever, it was the surge, right?
Right.
The recruiters put a guy from Harlem in who couldn't see out of one eye. We didn't fucking figure it out till range day. This dude made it through like
Oh
three
my
weeks,
God.
3 weeks of basic training and MEPS. I shit you not. And like the drill sergeant was like, holy, I remember this moment. We had this big, tall Irish drill sergeant named Mickey. I can't even do his accent, but like as Irish as he can possibly be. And he's just like, holy shit, Pratt, you're fucking blind. And he's like, yes, drill
Like,
sergeant.
if you say so.
And the private, I remember this, the private's like, only out of this eye though, drill sergeant. And the drill
Yeah,
sergeant's
yeah,
like, no
I still got one
shit,
good eye.
no
It's a
shit.
strong hand. That's so fucked, dude.
And
Oh
it's
my
like,
God.
so with that being said,
Right.
you have to train to the lowest common denominator. And so you
Mm-hmm.
can't
Mm-hmm.
train for a thinking shooter. You
Mm-hmm.
have to, and the thing is, if you're a thinker, and I know I could name 10 dudes like this who, they're incredibly smart, would have been amazing assets to the military long term, should be the people that end up in DC at the Pentagon. And they're just like, I'd rather blowtorch my nipples and deal with this
Yeah,
for,
100%, dude.
you know,
Totally.
it's it's an it's an
You can't
inaccurate
be too
system.
smart because you get too smart, you know what I mean? Like you start overthinking stuff and then you're kind of like, huh,
Yeah.
is this worth it? Is it, like you say, being 31 and seeing jump school, you're like, I don't know if this is if that I want to do this, and
Yeah.
you need the kind
Yeah.
of the opposite, which you get when you're young, dumb, and you know,
It's
or
interesting how those
whatever.
propositions age on us, huh? Um,
Right, right. So then you're in Afghanistan, and as much as you would like to go into, or not at all, whatever you feel comfortable with. But how did it kind of, how'd you get injured? And if you want to talk about your transition into that next phase of like, oh shit, okay, looks like I may have to start looking for options outside of the military.
yeah, I mean, I don't have a cool injured guy story. I got hurt and I leave it at that because I think
Yeah,
there's enough cool guys out there. But
for sure,
for
for sure.
me, I do have one funny story, and that was when you were over, did they have those the fob blimps, Pegasus?
No, so I was on a Mew. So
Okay.
I was like in the Gulf basically
Okay.
just doing fucking donuts.
So
So yeah.
we had these big blimps called PGIS, Progressive Ground Surveillance, and like they were amazing. They could tell what kind of cigarette you were smoking from like 2 miles
Oh
away.
wow.
And they could shoot a grid so that the people in the battle command could call in air and be like, "Hey,
Mm-hmm.
IED planters here. There's a tick here," before it
That's
even went on
good.
comms. Well, one of the like I don't know old Russian helicopters that delivered our mail. I think it was either a Puma, which is a French one, or like a Russian MI that'd been repurposed. But either
Mm-hmm.
way, old bird comes and it hits the tether to this blimp, right?
Oh shit, no way.
And I'm at this point, I'm on like the base QRF team, and there's like a small number of us. There's like four, right? And I would just finish like grabbing breakfast, was heading in to like be on standby. And I get a hit on the radio like, we're already out the gate. The blimp is fucking down. The blimp is down. And so, and it happened like 300 meters outside the front of the fob. And mind you, at this fob, this was not like a very kinetic place, but no
Mm-hmm.
less, it's still Afghanistan. And so
Yeah.
all I've got is like my patrol cap and a 9 mil on my side. It's in one of those stupid ass drop leg safaris that are dog ass useless, where like if you actually run, it's just gonna hit you right in the wiener. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And
exactly.
so here I am at the ECP, 9 mil in my hand. The ANA guy on his machine gun's like, what's this fucking
Yeah.
hands up? He thought I was gonna shoot him.
Oh shit, no way.
Yeah, the ANA guy guarding the ECP thinks that I'm gonna shoot his ass
He's
because
like, oh boy.
I just start running up there. Here comes this corn-fed motherfucker with a 9 mil in his hand.
Uh-huh.
And I look at him and he's like,
And
oh,
there's probably some green on blue stuff going on at the time too.
oh,
Or
there
what they call
was
it, green on green.
green on blue. Yeah, green on blue,
It is
blue on
green
green.
on blue, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
No,
that was probably in the back of his mind, like, oh shit.
well, the ANA had just shot up the 82nd like playing a soccer game at a base not far from us,
Oh,
like a month prior
uh,
to this too. So yeah,
okay. So it was literally
contextually,
that time. Yeah,
yeah,
contextually, he was like
like
shitting his
homie's out for
pants.
revenge.
Uh-huh.
Well, no,
Yeah.
so I run out to this blimp, right? And these things are huge. Like it would fill this office, right? And
Mm,
it's obviously a helium blimp. And so we
right.
had this dude named Sergeant Ray who was like, I don't know, fucking every bit of 5'4", and but jacked, like stacked AF.
Mm.
Like he'd been to SFAS like 5 times and they kept peering him out just to piss him off.
Oh
Like
shit.
he
Oh
was
my
he
God.
was a good dude. If he hears this, know that it's said with love, Ray. I hope he's still,
Yeah.
but like just jacked, angry motherfucker, like like rip someone's head off for no reason.
Hmm.
Well, he starts yelling at me. He's like, "Where the fuck were you at, Luke?" But the thing is, he's been inside this helium balloon trying to rip the camera off so we can at least secure the camera and bring it back in.
Uh,
So he's talking like Mickey Mouse from the helium.
oh my God, dude, that is hysterical.
I just start, I just start laughing my ass off. I'm winded. I got this 9 mil in my hand. I got no
It's
armor
like a
on.
very serious situation.
Like, like, like I'm so ate up. I'm breaking all the rules. I got no armor on, no nothing. I'm standing outside the wire, just chilling, and I'm like, "What the fuck did you just say?"
That
And
is fucking hilarious,
so
dude.
we try to shove this thing into the back of an MRAP, and then our gunner starts sounding like Mickey Mouse, and I'm like, "Oh fuck me, man." Him talking over the radio is one of the most priceless things. But yeah, no, that's probably one of my favorite stories from Afghanistan.
I
But
love it. That's fucking awesome.
no, when I got hurt, I had no idea what was coming. I had a rough exit from the army. It wasn't a smooth one to say the least. I pissed a lot of people off on my way out, and
Mm-hmm.
spoke my mind. I've always been known for that. But you know, when I got out, I had no idea what to do. I went to live with my grandma. She had an apartment in Omaha, so I sold most of the things that I had to get gas money to drive my Mustang from Fort Bragg to Omaha, and I just realized I was so angry. Like I would get so mad over nothing. I had no fuse. I had no filter. I had almost no discretion with my anger either. And I
Mm-hmm.
knew that something was wrong. And so, you know, by chance, I adopted a dog. It worked out well. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I still got this dog. His name's Cole. He's like 17 now. But he saved my life for sure. And I knew that I needed to go like isolate. I needed to go figure me out, which is like pretty contraindicated, honestly, if you're depressed. Like you probably shouldn't isolate.
Sure, sure, right.
Yeah. But whatever, that's what I did. And I found myself in this little double wide trailer, the only thing that I could afford in the middle of nowhere in Nebraska. And it I worked a bunch of random jobs being a cable guy. The upside of that job was I got to deliver a lot more than TiVo to some housewives. But
Oh man, that's okay. Highlight right there. That was amazing.
silver,
Um,
silver, silver linings, you know.
Jesus, no shit. Hilarious.
Um, I got fired from that job because they kept telling me
Oh,
I pissed my boss off. No, not for banging MILFs. That would have been way
no, that was
funnier.
encouraged. Yeah, that's encouraged here. We don't
Nah,
hire losers.
well, I just like it was one of those things where I realized like my life has more purpose than this dumb shit. Because like I pissed the
Right,
boss
right.
off, and he's like, "Yeah, I need you to do these disconnects." So people who don't pay their
Uh,
bill. I don't know if you know this, but the population of people who short their cable bill tend to not be the most sane individuals to begin with.
yeah, right, right, right.
And like I cut off some dude's NASCAR race on like a Saturday or a Sunday, and I'm up on the ladder, and he comes and he starts. I'm on an 18-foot ladder doing the disconnect. He starts shaking the ladder. He's like, "I'll fucking kill you," blah blah blah. And I said, "You let me get down there, motherfucker. Find out."
He's like, in that case, no, hell no.
He keeps
Jesus, dude.
shaking the damn ladder, and I like get my way down there. It was the shit was out of a movie, dude. It's just like 50-year-old guy, not physically imposing. I knew if I got in an
Mm,
altercation, like
yeah.
even if I was in the right, I wasn't in the right kind of situation, you know?
Uh-huh, uh-huh. Yeah,
And
good stuff.
he like comes at me and I took my screwdriver and I just like threw it at him.
Just boinked him.
It hit him right in the head on the soft side. And it wasn't even hard. He's like, "I'm calling the fucking cops." So the cops show up. And then like my boss decided to lecture me about how like I should have just gotten the truck and drove away. And I'm like,
And no bonking customers,
yeah,
Luke.
apparently. Well, he actually said that, and I said, well, technically, he wasn't a customer anymore. It just
Yeah,
got.
right. He stopped paying. He was just a dickhead who was trying to throw me off a roof.
Anyways, I got fired for that. But there was a pivotal moment that like I do want to share because I
Mm.
think it's one thing I like to share. I think it can help people who are on their similar journey where, I did come to a point, admittedly, working these jobs, not questioning what I was doing in life, where I like it just all broke down. I was having to survive off of food from the food pantry. It was like -40 that winter, and it was a propane heated trailer, and I didn't have money to fill the tank because they had minimums, right? So it was like 500 or nothing for like a quarter of the tank. And so I had no heat, just me and my dog. And I'd started to use the GI Bill at this community college. And I was doing good. And I was like, that's cool. But I didn't have a computer. Everything I did was me and my dog staying warm in my bed together. That was it. And so came to this point where I was like putting the pistol to the mouth, moment. And I looked at the dog and I realized like, dude, fuck, if I do this, who feeds you? I thought to myself, like this moment, and this is like the thought that like I wish I could impress upon everybody who ever gets there. Like I had a choice. Either you do it now and you stop bitching, or you live a life worth writing about so that all your boys up there have something to watch. And that moment dictated everything that I did in my life from there on and to this day. And I've lost a lot and I've fucked up a lot. But I tell you, my boys watching it, shit's better than HBO. And that,
Yeah,
that is like fucking live the life worth writing about, you know? If I could impress one thing upon people.
that's really powerful, man. And unfortunately, it is the first half of it is a all too common story. Um, I know of a lot of people, friends of friends, that have gotten to that point of, struggling in that transition, hitting a rock bottom and making it to an inflection point where they're making a decision. Do I decide to kill myself, or do I decide to, claw my way back up out of this trench? And I've seen it go both ways. Um, so the fact that you were not only able to pull yourself and make, choose the other road, but that it's become an aspect of your mission to spread that message and give other veterans hope and sort of, hey, here's a roadmap for if you've ever been, hit this low, there is a way out, there is hope. There's an organization that we work with, it's called One More Wave. It's like a veteran surf
Yeah.
nonprofit, and it's always about like, hey, there's always one before you make that other choice. Why don't we one more wave? Let's just get one more wave, just hold on to that little bit of hope, because from there, that's when you can start building and
Yeah.
start, getting back. So you decide that, hey, I'm going to make the story that, is worth telling. What was sort of the next step? How'd you go from, living in your trailer to, selling a business and starting another?
Yeah. I mean, a complicated path. I started setting just challenges for myself. I was like, what would be the most outrageous thing? And that was the parameter for me making
Hmm.
decisions. And I was like, okay, well, what if, this kid who like pretty much failed out of high school got straight A's in college? And so I did nothing but study and nothing but read. And I got straight A's in community college. And I did 12 credits first semester, then I did 16 the next, and 18 the next. And then I got into this amazing program called the Veterans Posse Program. And that's where they start with like 2,500 people, they dwindle it down to 10, all veterans, and the 10 that are selected get to go to an Ivy League school.
No way.
Yeah. And so I got the opportunity to go to Dartmouth, and I ended up
No
not
way.
taking it. I didn't take it because I wanted to be close to my little sister and my family in Nebraska. but it wasn't even about doing it. It was about
Right.
achieving it. And they're
Yeah.
like, well, you took a slot from something. Call number 11. Fuck, dude. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's not,
Yeah.
that's not on
Sounds like a
me.
you problem at this point. Yeah,
Yeah. Like,
exactly.
and I there was a lot of things that I did like
Is
that.
that
Like
still a program? Is that still just for the
Veterans
record? What?
Posse. It
Yeah,
was called Veterans
maybe.
Posse. I don't know if it's still a thing. The Posse Foundation. Yeah, it's still a thing.
That's
Launched in
awesome.
2012. Posse Foundation, started by Vassar College president Catherine Bond Hill. Yeah.
Oh, that's rad. Yeah,
Yeah.
dude. I mean, I try kind of getting out as many of these programs and just like putting it on the table, like, hey, yeah, you guys can go Google it and do some research on your own for these things. But a lot of people, a lot of the programs and benefits that I have been able to take advantage of myself and that have transformed my life, I only found out because I talked to other veterans and they're like, oh, do you know about this? You could do this,
Yeah.
or, just like this. Like, oh, I found out about this, what's it called? Say again, posse, veteran
Posse.
posse.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, like that's life changing. Some other things here in San Diego, there's like the Honor Foundation
Yeah.
is one. A huge, everyone knows about the GI Bill, even though I do think people don't utilize it necessarily they don't maximize that benefit. But another one is voc rehab, if you're familiar with that, or that's
I
just
used
another
it.
one I
Yeah.
like. Dude, it's the best. Voc rehab is great. I mean, you got to apply for it, and there's some tricks a little bit to getting qualified for it, but most people are eligible if you have like a disability rating over 10%. And it can totally take you from never having a day of college to finishing med school and having all of that paid for and getting housing allowance. So,
Yeah.
it breaks my heart when I hear about veterans living out of their cars and living on the street, and just because of how many programs there are out there for that. I really fucking sorry, dude.
No,
Um,
man, it's a hard topic. It it sucks. And the awareness, it's on men like us, building things like us to spread the awareness of this and talk about what helped us figure out our next mission. And I think like one of the critical mindset things too is like, I mentioned my dog, but the unspoken part to that is there was something bigger than me that mattered. As veterans,
right,
we are of
right,
surface, and we're also
right.
told, I don't care if I die, the man next to me needs to, I will hit the grenade. That is,
Yeah.
in general, it's a mindset. You're not trained for it. It's a mindset you adopt when you're in these units, and it leads you to feel a bit dispensable when you're outside and you don't have a man to your left and your right. So
Mm-hmm.
if you don't have that, make your new man have four fucking legs, all right? And and
Totally,
and
totally.
I think that there's another critical piece of this. Like people can say, I feel like I'm breaking the fourth wall here in psychology almost, but it's like people say, well, I don't know that I have a mission in life. Like, take it from me, you have a fucking reason to be here.
Yeah.
And if it might be to flip off the next presidential candidate and piss him off and do good thing. Your
Right.
reason might not be some grandiose Hollywood ass shit. You will live a fulfilling life finding that reason though. And you
Totally.
have a reason and a mission to be here. So don't be a fuck and throw it away. Like
100%. That there was a principle that it's incredible how true this is, and how it works on like in a microcosm, and you can extend this out to all aspects of your life. But in training, we would this concept of feeling sorry for yourself. The more you focus on your own suffering and the suck that you're in, and oh, I'm tired, I'm cold, I'm wet, this is heavy, this is hard, feeling sorry for yourself. It's this self-absorbed way of going through it, and you're going to feel every second of every shitty moment in that time period. And you are telling yourself in that you are too small to be above this, right? You are just a victim to your environment. If you flip that on its head, and what they would tell you over and over is like, instead of sitting there and feeling sorry for yourself, go find someone that you can help. Go find, if
Oh,
you're, you know what I mean? And just by the act of doing that, all of a sudden, dude, you have new stores of energy. You're not as cold, you're not as tired, and you're the guy that people are looking towards now. Oh, when we're all sitting there freezing, oh, we can't focus. That dude's running around and gear checking everybody to make sure that our shit's, together. No, now you're a leader, and you have voiced that suffering that you were feeling, and you're like, how do I alleviate other people's? And it gets alleviated of you.
oh, 100%, dude. Like, and I got a story, like, go help someone else. So,
Yeah.
because and I'll show you the levels of insanity, like to apply my mindset. And I think, I don't know that I encourage it, honestly. Like, I think there's a Hunter Thompson quote. There's a Hunter Thompson quote where he's like, I don't know that I recommend drugs or whatever to, to the general populace, but I couldn't do it without it. Similar kind of concept here. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know that I recommend my mindset, but hey, give it a shot. Um,
Right.
but no, like, so fast forward, I end up just going to nursing school in Nebraska. So I go to
Hmm.
University of Nebraska Medicine Center for nursing, go through a horrible breakup, blah, 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 do some
Hmm.
overseas contracting work as a tactical medicine instructor in
Oh,
South
sick.
America. Oh, it was super sick. Lived in Cartagena,
That's really cool.
had a baller time, did a bunch of dumb shit, and
Oh
personally
yeah.
responsible for the average male height in Colombia increasing by 2 inches.
Well,
Um, went a little Genghis
thank
Khan while I
God.
was down there.
Yeah, it sounds like a bunch of gingers coming out of Colombia.
It's a brown Brock Lesnar. What's going on?
Brown Brock Lesnar. That's incredible.
Just
Fucking
watch the
hilarious.
UFC in about 10 years, all right?
Yeah, yeah, it's gonna be a bunch of broccoli tops fighting each other.
I'm gonna be that stereotypical dad, be like, I was always there for you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was there. You're welcome.
Listen, I sent your mom Venmos every month. Anyways,
Yeah, yeah.
beyond the incriminating evidence I just released, you're Colombia, don't come after me. You got bigger fish to fry. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I'm going to nurse practitioner school in Michigan, right? And ended up there because the dude I went to basic with was there. His family owned a apartment complex. It was the perfect alignment, right? And super cute town next to Saginaw, which is super ghetto, but there's a super cute town called Bay City, which has like, if you're ever in Bay City, Michigan, there's this Polish restaurant that's like a Polish grandma buffet. And it's just as good as that sounds.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Are the grandmas
Well,
on buffet?
I mean, probably.
Moving on, moving on. Sorry.
I'm not kink shaming, bro.
No, no.
You, whatever your preference is, homie. But no, so like, funny enough, I forget the song by Ice Cube, but like Hood Tendencies or something like that. It's coming, like, I'm burnt on school. I don't want to do the fluorescent light medicine stuff anymore. I'm just fucking
Mhm,
done,
mhm. Right.
And the song comes on shuffle. I'd never heard it before. He's like, fuck school, and I'm gonna be a dope dealer. And I'm like, yeah, bro. I'm not
Yeah,
gonna be a dope dealer, but like, fuck school. I'm done with this shit.
yeah, that's cool.
I don't know what I'm gonna do though.
Hmm.
And so my favorite book in the world changed my life, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I read it.
Hmm.
And in the process of doing that, he was like, go find collaborative effort and how you can help others.
Hmm.
And I was like, well, I'm not really feeling to go to, like, I don't feel like feeding homeless people at a soup shelter is really, maybe that's selfish of me. I was like, I don't know that that's going to like fill my cup. I don't think I can
Sure.
actually engage or make an impact in that.
Right,
Not
right.
hating on it. I just didn't feel that way. So I went to the dog shelter there in Bay City. And these
Mm.
people thought I was on crack because I show up
Hmm.
and I'm like, yeah, I want to volunteer to walk dogs. And they're like, okay, how long, how often do you plan on coming? I'm like, how many days a week are you open? They're like, 6. I'm like, cool, be here 6 days a week. And they're like,
Hmm.
for how long? I'm like, well, how many dogs you got? They're like, 36. Like, how long does it take to walk each one of them for a few minutes? Like, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 hours. Like, okay, 5 or 6 hours a day. And
That long. Wow.
okay, when are you gonna start? I was like, tomorrow. And they like ran my ID, did the thing next day. And for 30, I think it was 38 days. I didn't count them like unintentional, but I knew like going into this, like I wanted to find a way to move to Austin, but I didn't really have any money. This girl that I'd
Mm.
met while I was on a job in California, her family had just moved to Austin, their dad's company. I was like, I just want to get to Austin, be with her, figure something new out in life, not be a nurse. And for 38 days, I showed up and I walked those dogs every day. And it was the most powerful thing in my life. I learned so much about myself in helping others and helping these dogs, even these dogs that were on death row because they'd like bit a 5-year-old or whatever. There's this one mean motherfucker named Rudy. They put him down, but Rudy was some shit.
You probably deserved it, but
Oh no, he, me and him tussled. I still got some scars from him, but we
oh
became
shit.
friends. And I made sure his last days were at least Gucci, you know? And
Yeah, yeah,
but I learned so much in all that. And it's like you said helping others. And I'm like, yeah, man, like
yeah,
to this day, every time I feel stuck, I look around for who I'm supposed to help.
yeah. 100%, dude. 100%. And it's like, even I think that's part of it too, is that like the belief that you have something to offer. Because sometimes it's like, especially if you're in a situation like, you're like, okay, I just got out of the military, I'm a broke dick. I don't have any money, I'm broke. I'm living in a trailer, you know what I mean? All of these things are going on. How can I help anybody? You know, that mindset already is setting you, yeah, how could you help anybody? You know, but if you realize that, like, if the only resource I have is time, then I'm going to give you 100% of it. You know what I mean? That's what it sounds like
Yeah.
you were doing. You're like, I'm whatever I have to give, I'm putting it all out there. And in doing so, that's like where you start realizing that, like, I do have value. I do have something to contribute. And, you know, nothing like a dog to show you how worthy you actually are, because they don't discriminate. Again, all they care about is if you're a good person. You know what I mean? They can kind of like sense that, but that unconditional love, that lack of judgment, that just like pure excitement to see you, and that like ability to live in the moment. Like, there's so much that you can learn from them, but you know, you're still contributing, and you're able to help them, and it helps you. It feeds. There's a feedback loop there, you know.
Oh yeah. And like I feel like the word enlightenment's awful corny, but like that Rudy dog in particular, he was the first one who taught me how much my own energy mattered.
Mm.
If I was nervous
Wow.
coming up to him, he was nervous back. And this dog, I mean,
Right.
he was one of the most terrifying looking dogs I've ever seen, where his body was really narrow. He was brownish red in color and beautiful, but his head, he had like some Herculean breeding jaws. Like they were, I don't know,
Uh-huh.
the crimson chin type shit, right?
Oh, that's hilarious.
Like he was just nothing but teeth animal and
Mm-hmm.
pure muscle. And if he got a hold of you, it wasn't good. And uh,
Mm-hmm.
he taught me so much about my own energy, and then more so about like how I perceive others' energy. Are you
Right.
actually hostile towards me,
Right.
or am I intimidating you because of my status, my size, my intellect, who you perceive me to be? And it's one of the biggest reasons why in business I never wear contacts, because it doesn't necessarily look it now because I've been working too much of a tech life, but I was into like competitive powerlifting for a while, and
Yeah. You seem like a power lifter,
far
actually.
more jacked. I was deadlifting 765, squatting 600, benching 500. And that's a kind of terrifying dude if you especially if you mix it with someone who's smart and can speak well.
Right.
But wearing glasses, I notice that when I wear glasses, I'm much more humanized. And I don't intimidate female employees and coworkers.
Right. Right.
Like
Right.
these interesting things that like people think are not intentional. You learn how to be intentional with them, and it's incredibly powerful. Like the curly hair, I have had a high and tight my entire life, literally, up until the
Huh.
past 6 months.
Interesting.
And I did that because I was like, okay, I'm no longer selling to the government. I'm selling to veterans. And I want to show veterans what they
Right.
can. What
Right.
what is that perception?
Right.
I don't need the high and tight.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter
Right.
if this looks
Right.
good or not. I fucking
Right.
like it.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
You know, that sounds
Well,
silly.
you start. No, it's. I mean, maybe it sounds silly to, you know, someone, but that's actually, it's funny you say that, because just in the last like year or so, I've kind of really started thinking about perception management, because I've been very much of like, this is just who I am. I am the way I'm going to be, and, you know, take it or leave it. You know, at least I'm authentic, and I still very much believe that. Like, I think authenticity, you know, does more than try to bullshit your way through most things. But you start recognizing that as humans, we're making a lot of snap judgments and almost like subconscious perceptions, and then that's feeding into our beliefs, which then contribute to our thoughts and then our actions and etc. And it all starts sometimes with stimulus that you don't even know you are perceiving. And so
Yeah.
when you kind of internalize that and you start, thinking about like, wait, how am I being perceived? And in what context? If I'm meeting with some investors where I'm trying to look like I got all my shit together and I'm super buttoned up, I'm going to wear, maybe not a nice suit, but I'm going to wear something that projects like authority or success or like, you're lucky I'm giving you my time kind of deal. Whereas with other people, a customer or when I'm doing a pop up or I'm doing something like that, I want to be super approachable. I want people to not
Yeah.
view me as something scary or weird, or you're walking down the dark street at night or whatever, I might be walking like a certain way or like projecting like a don't fuck with me because I will
Yeah.
curb stomp you attitude. But you would there if you go into you're trying to meet girls or something like that, and that's the vibe that you're putting up, you're gonna scare everyone away. So all
Yeah.
that stuff, and it's very subtle, but it really does matter. I think
Oh, it's
it really does.
I've had a few people I've mentored, and I tell them when you start making money, you need to spend like and when you start making good money, you need to spend like $15,000 total or less, and you need four things. You need two watches and two pairs of shoes. One of those pairs of shoes should have red bottoms, and that's the fuck you.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to be the showy ones. Make them classy,
Right,
right? Like I got
right,
like a
right.
dark pair of boots, but and then you need a
Stealth
watch.
wealth.
Yeah, you need a watch, a holy shit,
Yeah,
and then you also need a grinder. And it's like,
yeah,
and like, get yourself an Omega or a Breitling, and then also have like a cool custom G-Shock or something that's personality trait to you,
yeah.
and tailor that to the kind of meetings you want to be in
Right.
and how you want to be perceived. Even if you are the alpha in the room and people are looking up to you, is it a one-way street meeting, or is it an intersection? If it's a
Mm,
one-way street, show up how in a way that these people want to be you. If it's an
mm-hmm,
intersection, show up in a way that these people relate to you.
mm.
And it's like it sounds so
That's really
common
wise.
sense, but it's like before you go spend money on lifestyle inflation with a car or anything else, when you start doing good money in your business,
Right.
get yourself these tools that can rapidly change the outcomes of your meetings.
Yeah, yeah,
You know?
exactly. And in a sense, if you're being intentional about what you're doing, you can transform consumption into self-investment, because
Oh
a
yeah.
lot of these things, nice clothes, nice this, like that's all just consumption. But if it's, even if your car is an older car, it's an older, shittier car, go fucking wash it, dude. Go get it detailed. Go, because that's how, and the military, that's actually a military concept. Why the fuck are people in downrange, shaving their beard and stuff like that? If you're not like in an SF role or something, it's because it's like we're professionals, dude. We show up when we want to be the, at least old school army like mindset is, no matter where you are, you're gonna be, spick and spam, high and
Yeah.
tight, that whole deal, because it projects that like we got this shit,
Yeah, the discipline. I mean, you say
the
that, and
discipline.
I look out the window. I've got my don't ever wrap your car with matte wrap. So
Oh, good to
I,
know. I've
I
always seen matte wraps. I think they look sick, but that's good to know.
if you feel like spending a car payment on washing it, yes.
Oh shit! It's like
It
special whole deal that you got to deal with to
no,
wash it.
it's a dust magnet. The matte, it's like I think it's staticky enough to
I could
draw
see
dust.
that. Yeah,
Uh, I had a matte BMW, and then I wrapped it with a matte wrap because I was like, well, protect the paint.
yeah.
That thing, it looks like a dust cloud right now. I'm like, all right, I'm a piece of shit.
Interesting.
I gotta go.
That's it. So sorry, I didn't mean to throw shade, but no, I think your point though was valid, and I like that these are tips that are very real and very tangible. I did a podcast a couple weeks ago with one of our we have a couple sponsored athletes, and one of our
Awesome.
she's an MMA fighter named Liz Carmouche, champion fighter. She did the first UFC bout against Ronda Rousey. It was the first like female UFC fight.
Oh
She
shit.
ended up winning in Bellator. In any case, she kind of walked us through how she vision boarded, and how she also Marine veteran. She transitioned out, got into martial arts after the Marine Corps, after like 10 years in the Marine Corps. So she was like in her late 20s,
Wow.
and never having fought a day in her life, never having done martial arts, nothing. And she becomes a championship fighter. And it's an incredible story. But the point I'm trying to make is and she kind of like, and so I was vision boarding and I'm like, whoa, hold, let's rewind for a second. Like walk me through that, because that's a very tangible, real tool that took you from where you were and got you towards a goal that many people would think would be impossible. And it's maybe something that seems obvious or simple, but maybe other people are not thinking about it in that same way. And so stuff like just managing the perception that other people have of you and doing so strategically, that's a very real, tangible,
Oh yeah.
benefit or
I had
tip.
to, for my first company, I had to pitch 185 investors to get to my first yes. And
Wow, dude.
put that in perspective, people who haven't talked to a VC, that's not me telling you my business idea 185 times. That's me telling you my
Right.
life story, why I care about this problem, how I'm going to solve it, the market size, and my ideas, and being told that you're stupid and should probably quit
Hmm.
185 times. Uh,
Right. Right.
and this is like
So true.
my one of my like favorite like key moments. People say this shit, but it is so true. It takes one yes, right? Number
Yeah.
186 happened in a very like interesting way. I'm outside of a winery at this like accelerator thing in Washington, D.C., smoking a cigarette, just like, fuck me, man. What am I? Because I'd
Yeah.
entered the
Why am I
point
here?
where
Right.
like every time I showered was like a spiritual journey. I'd turn the heat up all the way just to see if I could take the
Mm.
pain. I was like, if you can take this pain, bro, people will give you money. It's like I was not necessarily sane. Like I was driving myself pretty crazy, like just
Mm,
staying focused and what I was doing. And I didn't really like turn the water to scalding. It was more so just like a mental like presence thing. But point being,
right.
this casual conversation turns into a check. Well, the next day for a check for 100K. The next day, I get a call from the managing director of Techstars in Colorado, the most selective accelerator for tech companies in the world. And he's like, "You're the first person we're calling for this cohort. We want to tell you that you're in." Yeah. And we got in. We got into Techstars. And it was insane.
Wow, dude.
10,000 companies
And
applied,
this all happened in like one day, then essentially, where or like a short period of time between getting the
24-hour
check
period.
and wow, dude. Yeah. It's like it and people, you're an overnight, it only takes 10 years to become an overnight success. Like, that same type of
Oh yeah. And that
platitude, but it's true.
and that, that company was a fist fight from day one. It was fun because it was a challenge and I
Mm,
was fulfilled and I was helping people. But like the
right.
money was it wasn't like a money making. We spent a lot more than we were making because it you were
Sure.
influencing government policy, right? So your input was 10x your output for the foreseeable future.
Right.
And it was my job to keep doing good enough to raise the ability to keep that input up. And
Mm,
in this company with vet claims, it has been every single lesson that I was forcefully beaten with
yeah.
inclusive.
Right.
I mean, it has come manifest. Vetclaims.ai has been public for 2 months and we can't hire quick enough. Like it has been,
Really.
oh, it's been absolutely insane. And we've bootstrapped it because like I refused to take venture capital for a veteran mission company because the interests would intersect too hard, right?
Sure.
There-
Sure.
there's
Totally.
going to come a point where they're like, well, profit and exit. And
Yeah.
I'm like, we can exit, but it needs to go into the right hands, right? It needs to go
Right. Right. Right.
like, this can't be something that gets abused or like hyper monetized just to, exploit. And so, anyways, we bootstrapped it, and I was like, I went into debt essentially building this thing by myself.
Yeah.
Like all my little winnings, they went into this thing. It was Amex was calling, bank was calling.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah. And then we went public, and it has been just resounding, and the impact we get to have on veterans. And I don't want to like, we can get there, but my point that I was making is every like every test you're going through right now,
Yeah.
it'll come. like you'll be grateful one day that like you were hit with that.
Right, right. No, for sure. And I think that's the other thing that people, if you decide to go down an entrepreneurial route, but I'm sure again, so much stuff about entrepreneurship is like these are lessons that are repeated in other aspects of your life.
Oh yeah.
But you know, the your the challenges scale up with you. So first it's like creating your product, or whatever it is that you're doing, your service. They're, oh, we don't have any customers, how are we going to do this? There are these types of problems, and then you think to yourself, well, man, this like future version of you where you just are, your business is booming, there's no stressors, you're just cruising along and money's coming in. And it's like, it doesn't, as soon as you achieve that next rung, it's a whole, your problems level up with you, and then that next rung and your problems level up. And so really, there's never a point where it gets easy, or like you have things figured out. But what you've been developing over this time is the ability to deal with problems and your resilience to those problems. And like, yeah, it's going to be a grind, it's going to be a slog, but like, this is what it is, dude. You've got to fall in love with the process and stop being so fixated on the outcome, because these external validators are going to be the first things that kind of peel off when the going gets tough,
Oh, so many things to resonate with there. You said, even if you're not an entrepreneur, these things show up in your life. And I would frame it like this: everybody is the CEO of their own life. You are your
Brilliant.
own CFO, CMO. I mean, what we've been talking about are the functions of a company, right?
Right.
Your presence, your perceptions, that's marketing, right? Your finances, that's your ambition, that's your mindset,
Hmm.
right? Like, maybe the CTO
Right.
part, all you assholes probably just own iPhones, but like, like whatever. But it doesn't have to get complicated.
Right.
But no, like that, and oh man, there's just there's so many pieces of this that I could go into. I think I forgot what I was gonna say, damn it. What was the second part of
Um,
that?
so the second part was that your problems scale up
Oh,
with you.
yeah, well, so funny
And then the
story.
last part, oh, you go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh no, you go ahead.
No, I was just, in case that wasn't the piece that you were jumping on, I was going to try remembering the last part of my sentence. But no, hop in right there, what you were going
I was
to
gonna say it's a lot better to cry in a Lamborghini.
say. Okay, fair enough.
Like
Yeah,
like like
exactly.
like your problems do scale up. But I've personally cried in
Yeah,
a Lamborghini, and
yeah,
I'm
it felt pretty
10,
good.
10 out of 10. Like, I've cried in a double
Little
wide, and
Kleenex comes out. Yeah,
I've cried in a double wide,
yeah,
I've cried in a Lambo. I'll tell you which one I take any day. But no, like
yeah.
I remember it now. So that I hold that this is one of the key strengths of any veteran in life, and
Mm,
especially in entrepreneurship, and why I encourage veterans to pursue it so fervently.
hmm.
First of all, establish your base of fire, then pursue it. Don't just go willy-nilly say, fuck it, I'm gonna start a
Yeah,
company. But
right.
point being, once base of fire is established and you pursue this, the most terrifying thing that most people who are civilians, and have always been civilians, realize when competing with a veteran is that they've got the picture of the Lamborghini on their wall, and that's fine.
Hmm.
But the veteran, they just like being in the fight, and
Yeah, right.
that terrifies them. They can't wait to get through the fight, to hire away from it, to have XYZ. And the second the veteran does that, whether they know it or not yet, they'll be sad and depressed and wish they were right back in it.
Right.
You're a working dog. That's bred into you.
Totally.
You're a person of
Totally.
service. If this resonates to you 1 ounce, then heed everything else we've said in this podcast. But like,
Yeah, well,
you know,
and just to piggyback right on that, because I want to hop on the first part, what you said too, but just to piggyback on that is, you are gonna have to wait. Say what you just said one more time. I like lost my
oh
train of thought.
no, that veterans want to be in the fight. We're working dogs, you know. That's
Yes,
the part that's
yes.
scary.
Well, anyway, I'll hop on the first part because it slipped me. But the first thing that you said about establishing your base of fire, I think, another very tangible lesson going forward, because that is a really hard piece. I have a book called Third Shift Entrepreneur, and it's
Mm,
about like starting a business while you're working a full-time job, and that when you hit that third shift, and how are you going to put in the hours to do it? And it's really tough, and that, I think, is one of the biggest challenges for people that want to start a business is, how am I going to support myself when I have no customers and I need to spend 14 hours a day working on this thing? And so in my case, the GI Bill and Voc Rehab was my fire base, and I think it's something that is not unique to me. It is available to all veterans. And what it did was it gave me some breathing room right when I transitioned out of the military to be like, all right, hold on, what do I want to do? I was a medic, dude. I thought I was the same deal. I thought I was going into medicine. I was looking at, what sort of not like medical school to be a doctor, but I was looking at nurse practitioner. I was looking at doctor of physical therapy, looking at all these things. And it's occurred to me, I'm like, dude, I hate being in a hospital. I hate it. I hate
Yeah.
my life. I hate every time I got to show up. I hate the sterile white lights. I hate the whole thing. It's this way it smells, everything. I don't know that I want to do this. And so I got, but I didn't need a paycheck tomorrow. I could, hey, I got this GI Bill. We can figure this out. So now I enrolled in, I was getting my MBA, but I'm doing something that is actively investing in myself.
Yeah.
It's in furthering my education. It's not time doing nothing. It's time getting better at something. And on top of that, I mean, you're not taking out debt. It's all being paid for, and you're getting a housing allowance while that's going. And assuming you may have enough disability rating to receive health care, off of
Yeah.
which was a life-changing component, is just having your health care taken care of and having some money coming into your pocket. That is a very powerful base of fire from which you can be like, all right, no, who do I want to help? What am I passionate about? What gets me going to where I can show up and endure the suck? Oh, and this is what I was going to say is, some people think that I want to start my own business because, like, they have this idea that it's going to be easier, or it's like, working sucks. You know what I mean? Like, it is not less work by a
Yeah.
long shot. You know what I mean? It's substantially more work. And I think that scares people away too, is like, as soon as they start feeling, oh shit, this is actually a lot more work than I thought it was going to be, then their why gets called into question. And like, why am I doing this? I'm spending more money every month. I got used to signing the back of checks, my paycheck, right? Now you're signing the front of checks and you're paying invoices and you're doing that. And that's hard for some people to do, and I think veterans are uniquely prepared for that in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And the data shows that after World War II, I think I might be butchering these statistics, but I've read it somewhere. It was something like 40 to 50% of people getting out of the military started businesses in World War II. Now
Yeah.
I think it's like less than 5%. It's a much smaller percent. Maybe you have better numbers than that.
I
But
don't
you know
have.
what I mean? Like, we need to get veterans starting more businesses and doing that shit, because they're cut out to do it.
Oh, 100%. And like, dude, you're hitting right on all the spots here. Like, there's this guy, Andy Frisella. He had this podcast called the MFCEO Project, and what kept me going through many of those points where you're like, "Wow, what's my why? Is it strong enough?" Blah blah blah. Those questioning your sanity moments, was he framed it that every time you have one of these, so is everybody else. But the difference is, every time you make it through, 10 of your competitors fall off.
Right, right,
And I was like, bro, I'm not going to be in that. I'm not going to be in the fallouts.
right.
And sorry, I might have to pause in a minute. My wife might be home. Dogs are going
Yeah,
to be,
yeah, no
but
worries, dude.
if it
Whatever you
does,
got to do,
I'll just mute it. But
just mute. Yeah, you're fine.
the uh the whole reason I built vetclaims.ai was so the veterans had time to think.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Because what changed my life was that I had time to think about
Yes,
what I
yes,
wanted to
dude.
do. I didn't have to
100%.
sprint between jobs just to feed
Yeah,
myself, right?
right,
And this is a
right.
beautiful thing. If I can help, my whole thought on this, right, is if I can leverage this AI tool to make it so that I can suffocate out all these claim shark companies that take a percentage of back pay, or 5 or 6 times whatever the increase is, We charge a
Mm,
flat upfront fee, which is thousands of times less, literally thousands of times less than what these companies charge.
wow.
Treat each person like an individual, give them a resource portal of cool things that they can find and leverage
Right.
this money into or leverage their life into. And if I can get veterans their benefits, the rating they deserve the first time around, how much can I single-handedly decrease veteran suicide? Because every
Oh,
one of my friends that I've lost, working at a boat as a Budweiser security guard, working as some dumb shit, working as a bartender, dealing drugs, back in the hood, dumb shit, dumb shit, dumb shit. Like you name it, I read the stories and I'm like, brother, you were so smart, you were so capable, but they didn't have any option but to go back into survival mode. And
yeah.
and I hate
Right.
to break it to you, but congratulations, America, you just made a fucking warfighter at the age of 21 with some PTSD, dead friends, and a shit time. And now you're telling them there's nothing here for you but 19 an hour with maybe no benefits. And by the way, there is no upward trajectory. There is no ladder to climb. That's not how the world works anymore, right? And there's so many amazing things that I learned. I heard the coolest story the other day. This one of our customers came through and he's just like, yeah, man, I used my GI Bill to go to this crane operator school. Dude's making like 150, 2 years out of the army, was a heavy wheel
Yeah.
mechanic, operating a fucking crane, traveling the country with his family in a fancy trailer. I was like,
Wow.
bro, I was like,
So
we gotta
cool.
have you on this podcast to like talk about
Yeah.
your what? That's a thing?
Right.
I'd have fucking
Right.
done that. And it's
Totally.
and that's like 3 weeks. I think he said it was 3 or 6 weeks, maybe. I could be
Holy
wrong,
shit.
but
I'm
it
still here. I got you.
no, you're good. But it just I was like, what? Like that could how many lives alone
Right.
could that kind of program save? But no
Totally.
one knows about it because TAPS class is some government contracted. Did you know TAPS is actually that contract's held by a foreign company?
Not in the US. It's like
Yeah.
a wow.
Yeah, it's a
Well,
Brit.
that explains.
It's a British multimedia company. It's got nothing to do with anything from this. They've just historically
That's
held
so
contract.
wild that it's like a multimedia company because I think the only media I saw was a PowerPoint and it was the most half baked, like nothing class. There's really not like TAPS. Everyone goes through it, but it's such a joke. It is like notoriously a joke, and I think that kind of it takes hope away sometimes from people, because it gives them a false sense of like what your options are when in reality it's like you have way more options. You just don't know about them yet. Something like your company vet claims is a legitimate resource where people can see, hey, here's all the other tools that are out there for you.
Oh, that's the whole go. So it's um, MKS2 Technologies. They're owned by a British private equity firm, and yeah,
Interesting.
there's zero accountability, and it's absolutely
Yeah.
and it neither here nor there, but like that's the whole reason I built this company was I was so
Yeah.
after I exited Inclusive, in a very random turn of events, I worked for the CIA. Call that a summer job, huh? And
Yeah. No
I,
shit.
I was an AI and digital transformation subject matter expert for the Directorate of Open Source Information, Open Source Enterprise, and so OSE. And it was super cool. I got to interview the CEOs of leading AI companies around the country and assess if they were
Oh.
fits for this tool that we were building over there at the agency. And as I was doing this, I was listening to these CEOs talk about how they cared about these problems. And to me, the problems they were solving
Mm,
kind of dumb, like very business case
mm,
specific. But they were
mm,
passionate because like, oh, well, the first company I worked at, it failed because of this. And now look, it'll never
mm,
happen again.
mm,
So I was like, I
mhm.
resonate, but it doesn't help the humans.
Yeah.
What can I do? And then I started thinking about like what was the most painful thing in my life, and I was like, dude, I was when you almost fucking killed yourself when you when you were
Right.
like 21 years old,
Right.
double wide trailer, sucking ass, like living off food
Right.
pantry. How can I help that? Well, we know the military and the government's not going to help. We know that as much as these nonprofits and the people care, they're only as good as the veterans that go to them.
Mm,
What's the incentivization? Well, I create a way for them to essentially access, and then I did the math on how I can position this. It's like, did you know that 100% disability rating, especially if you get it before you're 35, the number doesn't change much if you're over 35, but per math, I don't want someone to yell at me. it's the equivalent of having a $12 million annuity. That's how much you would have to have in a fucking annuity to get that amount of money tax free. Put that in perspective.
Wow,
So,
that's incredible.
and so, yeah, we charge $1,250 to ensure and essentially white glove your shit. You don't lift a finger, and
That's incredible.
that's what we're getting you access to. And I furthermore, I don't yell at people, but I'm like, I still take these calls personally. I work cases personally
Right.
as we guide them through the AI product. Don't want VA legal coming down at me. You're not allowed to help with claims. Our tool helps them with claims, not us.
Uh-huh. There you
Anyways,
go.
but that's a whole nother story. But no, so in doing this, I tell them, I'm like, man, okay, when you get this, use it. Take some time to
Yeah.
think. Do not inflate your lifestyle. Don't get a new car. Don't,
Yeah.
if you want to buy yourself something nice out of the back bay, sure, whatever. I don't care. But
Sure.
like, time to think, change your
Yes.
situation. What do you want?
Yeah.
Carve out the life you want to live. And like, I always think back, there's a YouTube video of a Learjet or a Gulfstream, a Gulfstream sales presentation. And
Mm.
it was incredibly short. It's a video, it's like a 6 minute video of the interior of the cabin, the cockpit. It talks about the material, the tech in the cockpit. The only thing that's orally like spoke in the video is the new Learjet travels at, or Gulfstream travels at whatever it was, like 0.75 Mach, or I don't remember, travels at this speed. This will save our average customer 26 hours a year. The only thing that they sold was time.
Right.
So if I can give you time,
Yeah.
that's the most valuable thing I can give you.
100%. And because it all stems off from there. You have time to think, you have time to plan, you have time to plan. You're not operating from that reptilian
Survival mode.
survival brain. Yeah, that
Yeah.
survival mode. You're actually like, okay, how could I do this? Who do I care about? What impact? Because I think as veterans, we have a unique skill set, a unique leadership capabilities, abilities to grind, problem solve, all of these things that and we're not fucking soft, dude. That's a huge in a world where it just seems like people are kind of getting softer and softer, and that might be a bit of an
No, I mean,
oversimplification, but maybe it is. Like maybe it's not. Maybe that's actually
before
how.
before
Yeah,
this podcast, we were talking about both of us kind of toughed our way into a life-threatening injury.
yeah, into the hospital. Thought I was hungover, dude. I didn't know I was dying.
And I,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, it's a whole thing. I mean, the idea, I think it's a very hard concept for people who are veterans to make the hop over to operating from a place of abundance,
yeah.
And like
Right,
reading a
right,
single Tony Robbins book is a good start,
right.
but you gotta practice. I don't have any concrete advice on that one. That one you just gotta like the morning gratitudes actually. That's my
Mm. I
I've
think gratitude is incredibly important. Right.
when I when you start your day and you think about what you're grateful for, you no longer feel like you immediately need to hunt for something.
Yeah.
And
Right.
and you can take time to be tactical and actionable and um I don't know. I don't know that I'm the best to give advice on all that stuff, but I had like this interesting thing. Like I always felt like I was a bad CEO if I didn't wake up early enough. Wasn't a set time, but wake up early enough to go for at least a 1 mile walk and read for 15 minutes and shower before work started.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm an inferior leader today. And I would
Sure.
beat myself up to a pulp. And I've gotten better
Right.
about that part of it, but I still hold on to like the good side of like, well, why do you think you had that feeling?
Hmm.
Because you
Yeah.
know when you're at your best.
Right. 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 You can lie to a lot of people, but it's really hard to lie to yourself.
Yes.
And I have a question. Okay, so kind of talking about maybe transition into one thing. In some ways, I feel like veterans can almost be too good of entrepreneurs in that we can work ourselves to death. That is like literally. Yeah, I mean that's what you were telling me right before this, and if you want to mention what happened, but what I was going to
Yeah.
say was, how do you strike that balance now so that you don't, recognizing that this is a marathon and that you got to make it another 30 or 40 years, doing your thing. Uh, but with the flip side of that coin being that, like, it's going to take work. It's going to take you getting out of your comfort zone and grinding and putting in hours when you want to go do other things, and sacrificing here. So yeah, what's your perspective on that?
I had a saying, I still have it. In this recent event, so context for everybody, 2 days ago, literally, I went to bed and my leg was a little sore. This is also a PSA because this, like, no one knows how
Yeah.
terrifyingly sleepy this is. My leg was a little sore. I hadn't done leg day the day prior or anything. But I wake up at 4 a.m. in severe pain in my lower left leg. My calf feels like a cramp, a Charlie horse on steroids. And I wake my wife up to have her rub it, and she rubbed it, and like I yelped, I screamed like a puppy. I was like, "This is not a cramp." Well, nursing school, some life experience, and deduction skills told me that if it's not a cramp and there's pain and there's swelling, I mean, internal bleeding or a clot, like there's something going on here. Or maybe like compartment syndrome, which could be a weird thing in and of itself too. But regardless, I go to the ER and they're like, "Yeah, you got a blood clot, homie." Had I tried to keep massaging that, had I neglected going to get that seen, very easily would have died, right? The time that it takes you to get to an ambulance or to a hospital where they can actually do anything for that, rough odds. But anyways, that occurred because I've been working, this company's been growing so quick. I've been working 14-hour days for 7 days straight. And of course, like eating Uber Eats too, because I didn't take time to cook. So vast deviation from my routine. And it wasn't even a long deviation. I'm only 31, relatively healthy. I like my nicotine products, but it snuck up on me. So, anyways, if you got a weird cramp and it doesn't go away with massage, or if you got a cramp that involves swelling, actually don't massage it. Go to the ER.
Yeah, I was like, well, don't massage it. That could,
Yeah.
the worst thing in your case would have that massage, the pain gone away from your leg, right?
Yeah,
Could
like,
have
oh,
could
that
have
feels
been
better.
moving. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yikes.
But no, I have the saying, and the saying is fuck balance, find harmony, right? The idea of
Hmm,
balance is a
cool.
50-50 equilibrium, and that is
Sure.
if you want to be an entrepreneur, that ain't for you. It's not
Right.
there. And that harmony is just like a song. It's going to have high and low ranges. And so there's going to
Mm-hmm.
be, you're starting a company, do your best to go to the gym 3 times a week if you're going five. If you're already going one day a week, keep going one day a week. The thing,
Mm-hmm.
the catch with the fuck balance, find harmony is you have to be incredibly disciplined in the harmony. You can push the bounds, you
Mm-hmm.
can run it till the gas falls off, but you need to know you can only stay at red line for so long. And burnout takes 5 days of productivity as opposed to taking one day of rest, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and
Exactly.
a thing that I still struggle with to this day is it's not, there's always something to be done. There's always something to be done. The sales funnel's not right. There's a piece of copy here that's not right. An email's not sent. This customer asked me something. There is always something to do, and you have to prioritize that. And one of the best ways to do that is I always remember that 20% of the work you do will make 80% of the difference. So what's in that 20%? And eventually, if something never makes it into that 20%, it'll just die off. And either a critical error will occur within the company and you rapidly assess and address, or you realize that didn't really matter. Okay.
Yeah.
That's my
Right.
that's kind of my like navigational tool set if
I
I
love
if I
that.
would give one for that.
Yeah. No, that's I think that's great. I love that, the concept of harmony as opposed to balance. I talked about this with a friend of mine on the pod a couple weeks ago too. This guy Ryan Williams, he's the founder of
Sounds familiar.
yeah, he has Industry Threadworks. And
Okay. I've heard of them,
he's
yeah.
yeah, yeah, and he's a former Navy SEAL, and he's on social media. Has a good amount of followers, but um, he's just been a mentor for me in a lot of regards, and has been very like open and honest with the trials and tribulations of that he's gone through in business. But one thing that he said about balance was that, like, you're going to be out of balance in different times of your life, right? So if if you're starting up a business, and it's going to take a tremendous amount of attention, in the beginning as you're getting things going and kind of getting up to speed, when you first have kids, there's going to be a tremendous amount of attention that is required in being present and being available for your kids. When you're in the gym, be in the gym, be 100% in the gym, so it's kind of, it's like, it's not that you're 50% at work, 50% at family in your mind and at all times. It's that, like, when you're at work, you're at fucking work. When you're with your family, you're with your fucking family. And finding these, in the terminology you just brought up, that's like, it's this harmonious, it's not balance, but it's in harmony, and knowing that, you can only put so much in, you only have so much in the tank, and so you got to kind of decide when and where you're going to do that, and allow that tank to refill in order to be your best self when you are on to that next target that you need to tackle.
Yeah, and it's the beauty of it is, like, it is, like, I could describe entrepreneurship in my own opinion, and it would sound absolutely disgusting, and it should, because it's rough, it's terrifying. You'll question your sanity. If you're not, you're probably not going hard enough, to be honest. Um, and that's okay. But the ultimate truth at the end of the day is the level of fulfillment you will find by being able to feed yourself.
Right.
Right. And, like,
Right.
I'll say it even further. I raised venture last time, so I had, like, the safety net,
Yeah.
padding.
Sure.
Everything I've done in this has been a purely 100% bet on Luke. I got other people to bet on me last time. This time I'm betting,
Right.
and I mean big. The cars, the house, I bet everything on me and this idea and the impact we could make. And the coolest feeling has been being able to not pay me, but to pay people I've brought on from a thing that I
Right.
built myself with. And I'm like, holy shit. And it doesn't have to be this multi-million. You could start a fucking produce stand, right?
Right.
Like it doesn't have to
Right.
be this giant thing. It the power and the fulfillment is finding something you don't mind working 14 hours for. Because you're like,
Hmm.
hell yeah, dude, I'm getting in
Yeah.
here. And,
I
like, I'm
get
like,
to work these 14 hours. I get to go and manifest my dream. No one's making me do this.
yeah,
No one's, hey, Luke, can you get up? Hey, you're late, Luke.
yeah, yeah.
That ship sailed, dude. That, you know what I mean? Like, other people motivating you, other people imposing these
Oh,
things that, your goals. It's like you're doing it all.
dude, working in a government agency after working in a startup was absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, I'm sure the most frustrating thing you could possibly do.
Well, they fired three other people.
Huh.
Like, I wasn't trying to be a blue falcon. I was just like, the mission was to interview CEOs, and, like, these
Right.
people were strung up on, like, you can't just email someone and say, "Hey, I'm from the CIA." Like, that's not how it works.
Uh-huh.
It's not how those conversations go.
From the State Department.
Yeah, for many reasons, you don't do that. Um, and then and so, like, these people were hung up on, like, how do I get these meetings going, and how do I, like, assess, and,
Right.
like, because once you're in person, you can broker that kind of understanding, but prior to that,
Right.
not really. And I just, like, hopped on LinkedIn and I was like, "Hey, bro, I'm gonna be at your corporate office in about a week. Like, love to get a coffee." And they're like, "Who the fuck is this guy?"
Yeah.
And it would work. And,
Right.
and so I met with four times the people, assessed four times the companies. Literally, this isn't an exaggeration of any of the other people. And they're just like, "Well, we don't really need them on this contract." And I was like, "Sounds like a them problem."
Hmm.
and,
Hmm.
and I was like, "So you're gonna pay me more?" And they're like,
Damn.
"No." Fucking
It's
government.
true. There is like a government thing of, like, I mean, and you see it with guys, like when I first got to the ship. So I washed out of buds, and I'm doing my jail time now on this ship. And I was trying to establish that I'm going to show you, I'm going to claw myself up from this failure and prove to you that I am as good as I thought I was, and that I deserve to be there, and that I'm better than chipping paint and, freaking swabbing the fucking poop deck, which is the job that you're in essentially at this time. And other people took it and were like, dude, I hate it here. Like, fuck this job. I'm better than this. I'm gonna do my own thing. And so anyway, I went out there and I was like, if you want me to paint this wall, I'm gonna paint it twice as fast and twice as good. And that was kind of the attitude that I brought to all these things. And I'm working with some of these other, like bosun's mates and stuff like this. They're like, buddy, like you're making us all look bad here. Like chill. You know what's going to happen when you finish that wall? They're going to give you another wall.
Yep.
And so
Yeah.
and then you start realizing that like in some of these more like bureaucratic,
It's
where
not
they're not.
incentivized.
Yeah, it's not incentivized, dude. Like they don't even. You're not going to get more money. You're not going to get a higher rank or more respect or any of that shit. It's just going to give you more work to do. And so you start seeing like, yeah, and then you're starting to ratchet back down as I was like, dude, I have to get out of this environment and back to an environment where it matters how good you are at something and where your
Mm.
reputation follows you and where you're around other high achievers like that.
I love that framing. I've never heard it put like that. I have to get back to an environment where it matters how good you are.
Mm,
Wow. That that is interesting because I mean, like, it strikes me as profound. And I think it's mainly because the state of our country, probably, where
mm,
someone
right,
somewhere would manage impressively to take offense to that. And it's like,
right, crazy,
and like, I mean, I can't even begin to fathom the mindset that the gymnastics one would have to perform to get there. But the
right,
that's like, I love that framing. I have to get back to a place where how good you are matters. And in the startup
totally.
world, I love that because, like, maybe that's why I love it here so much. I tried to go back to
It's
the corporate.
very meritocratic. It's very meritocratic, dude.
Yeah, and it's
The market
and it's
doesn't lie to your face.
and it's multifaceted. Like,
Right.
I'm not saying it's not possible to be like an instantaneous gold strike with startups or
Sure.
companies.
Sure.
I'm sure it is, but I almost doubt it. Like, I almost think there's
Mm-hmm.
rules to this game where it's like you're gonna get drugged through glass at least
Mm-hmm.
an adequate amount.
Right.
And even if it looks like you're winning, and this is what happened with my prior company, everybody thought we were just crushing it and killing it. And I was doing all these great things and I was having fun
Uh,
driving Lamborghinis.
right.
Shh, dogs are fussing.
That's all good. Mine was too.
The That's what it looked like on the outside, but on the inside, I was running because I knew that this wasn't going to end the way I wanted it to.
Right.
I was holistically running, and after I got out of the company, it wasn't like a happy exit. It was like you didn't die kind of thing, right? Um,
Right.
I got introduced to golden teachers, and
Oh yeah.
that
Get into the
was
mushroom side of things. I love this.
well, that was my first endeavor with them because I'd abused some not so friendly substances in the past, of course. Who hasn't, I guess? But with those, I
For the
always
record, let me just say, it's because I don't think people are. Golden teachers are a species of uh, magic mushrooms, so
yes,
psilocybin mushrooms.
very, I would say, light, good entry point ones.
Yeah.
Um, and ever since the first time I took them, I always held a respect for them. Like, I have friends who are like, dude, you want to take some shrooms? And I'm like, no, dude, I don't do that with other people unless it's my wife.
Mm-hmm.
And when I
Yeah. I'm
do
the same
them,
way.
I'm in like a very controlled, like, space with an intention behind it. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe I'm making it more than it needs to be. But let me shut this really quick.
No, you're cool.
Oh, goodness. Gotta hobble back over here. Oh, Jesus. Um, that leg will get better eventually.
Yeah, it will. It will. It will.
Um,
You were saying so that they're that you have to go into it with you personally go into it with intention and stuff like that, which I think is a good way to do it. I don't know that I mean that I think you can get different things out of it at different ways, but that is a really for a therapeutic
yeah.
result. I think that's probably the best way of doing it. Controlled space, intention, something that you feel comfortable in, not necessarily like overstimulating.
Oh, yeah. And my thing was I was so curious because God, there was this moment, man, where It's hard to talk about it. Like, so I had to lay off half of my team. No, no,
Mm.
this one was the full team. The remainder of the team, because we are getting bought for parts, I had to lay them off 2 weeks before Christmas. There was no
Oh,
thing, there was
God.
nothing I could do about it. I hadn't taken a paycheck in like 4 months, trying to elongate, raise more money, do whatever, strike a different deal. And I remember it was Christmas Eve and I got a text and it was a gift card to a barbecue joint for like $100. And all of my employees had signed it. And it said, "Thank you for creating the best work environment I've ever been a part of."
Wow.
And I was just like, fuck, dude. Like, so I had that, right? And then I was no longer, my identity was no longer the CEO of this company doing great things for the world. I was just Luke. The people, the things that people had been cheering for, the man that had articles written about him, the man who was awarded by the Texas Business Hall of Fame, the CEO, Luke, he was just Luke now. And I like, and that sounds so silly maybe on the outside, like, oh, woe is me, cry me a river, rich boy, whatever. Like, but no, like internally, that was like, who the fuck am I? I've spent four
Yeah.
years of my life fist fighting every day for one thing. It didn't go my way.
Hmm.
Hmm, okay. Like, and so what I did is I mean, it was probably 2 or 3 months straight. I'd sit at my kitchen island because it was a new spot in my house that I'd never taken a lot of time to sit at. And I would take these golden teachers and I would ask the questions that I wanted to ask. And I'd have the questions written down in a notebook. And then I would just write. And I filled like 4 or 5 of these little like steno pad type notebooks.
Wow.
And at the end of doing that, like the world has such weird timing is when I randomly got a call like, "Hey, do you want to come work on this contract?" From a friend I hadn't spoken to in 5 years.
Wow. That's
And
wild.
it was almost like God, the world is like, okay, you're ready to receive again.
Hmm.
You've absorbed and felt what you needed to feel. Now you can go receive. And boy, did I. And here we
Yeah.
are.
Right. Right. Yeah. That's, I think that is a saying that I've kind of taken with me that reminds me of is that like you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Like the challenges that you face are exactly as hard as you are ready to face them. They're the perfect difficulty. And it may seem like, oh God, how am I supposed to do this? How am I supposed to do this? But you wouldn't have those challenges at your feet if the universe didn't think you were ready to face them. So and that should be like a point of confidence, that like you are capable of doing this, because if you weren't capable, then you wouldn't be in the situation. And it may not turn out the way that you think it's going to go. It could go a very different way, but that if it's a failure, there's a learning that should take place. And then with that learning, you're going to only get back better. And something you said earlier that kind of reminded me of, this concept is you were talking about the value of experience in combat. So you go through all of this training and you're doing your, land nav and like IADs and stuff like this, shooting and moving, doing these basic things, and then you get to Afghanistan, and it's not that all of it goes out the window, but you're like, there's more to this. You realized how nerfed the corners were, in training, in a way that made it to where, and then you get out into the real world and you're like, oh shit, I didn't think I was ready for this. And I think entrepreneurship's kind of like that too. I have all these fancy freaking pieces of paper on the wall, and MBA and case studies and this and whatever, and it's like, until you are in the big show yourself and you're out there testing what actually works and what's bullshit, or a nice like workshopped thing that Harvard Business School decided to throw into a case study, you don't really know anything. And then you're going to take that experience and you're going to bring that on with you. And maybe that experience is just a whole bunch of mistakes and failures and regrets, I guess, but just things that you're like, damn, I wish I could do that differently. Well, now you have the opportunity to do it differently, you know.
Oh, 1,000,000%. And it's also I mean, this goes to like the veteran side of willing to be wrong and look like an idiot because you don't hold yourself on too much of a pedestal.
Right.
There was a point where I was a fractional CTO for a tech company based out of Houston. The entire team, aside from me, was Ivy Leaguers: Dartmouth, Yale, Princeton, Harvard, Cornell, right? All of them. It was an HR technology company, and a pretty cool idea, honestly. To this day, do you know where that company is on paper?
Mm.
I had
Hmm.
started building prototypes the second they brought me on because I'd hear these
Hmm.
meetings, they'd talk about it, I'd start building it out, I'd make it happen. And then no, they were too scared to be wrong. There would
Right.
be, I mean, probably 40 hours of pontification were done a week of
Mm.
people just long-windedly explaining their thoughts and how it should be a certain way, but none of them was willing to commit to taking the first stab and sending it to market,
Mm.
even in a closed trial type environment.
Mm.
Um, and I finally wrote a letter of resignation. I was like, you guys can be as smart as you want, but if you're too scared to look dumb, it doesn't matter.
Wow. That's a profound statement right there. Yeah, 100%.
And so
100%, dude.
I will place my bet if there's two men in the arena and one of them has been kicked around, beat up, grew up in a rougher upbringing, has no resources, no one has his back. Maybe he had a Lunchable yesterday for food versus, the dude who went to the best school with the best parents and the best upbringing. I tell you who I'll bet on.
Yeah,
The guy who's had to fight a million times before, and if he looks dumb, he
right.
looks dumb.
Right, right.
Like end of
And
the
and
day.
that's something that veterans can take to like a lesson, as they're transitioning out, and let's say you're starting, your undergraduate school on the GI Bill or whatever the case is, you might be a little bit older than everybody there. There might be this like, fuck, I feel kind of weird, like whatever. I think you have an opportunity to step into the leadership role that you were meant for there, and it's by following the guidelines that you just sort of laid out there. And it's that, like, don't be afraid to look stupid, because everyone else in that class is afraid to look stupid, and so no one's going to ask the question that everyone has on their mind. And if you're just the dude that's just like, hey, I don't care if I look stupid, I don't care if I'm the big old dumb guy, in the class, but I'm just going to go out there, again, it's probably a question multiple people had. And all of a sudden people were like, oh, dude, I want to be in that guy's group when we go do, because he has freaking balls. He has the balls to it doesn't matter how smart you are if you're afraid to look stupid. That's huge. So
Oh, I
yeah.
got a funny story for that exactly, but I would take it a step further too. You said that they have an opportunity to be that leader and to leverage
Yeah.
their experience. I would say you have a duty to do so. I too looked at
Love
it
that.
as an opportunity, but in retrospect, I believe
Love that.
America needs her veterans.
Yes.
This
Yes.
country needs her veterans. And whether you feel burdened at this point by what you've done or been or seen or went through, the person it's molded you into, you have a burden to leverage that to be the best you possible, and where possible, where it leads to an advantage, use it, show it. Don't keep that
Yeah.
closeted up. And one of my favorite examples of this is in community college, and I'd gotten a little cocky because this is like my second semester, and I'd gotten straight A's the first semester. I was like, oh, fuck, whatever. And I was in like an intro to psych class, which if you've ever been through one, you know that it's just ass. Well,
Yeah.
the teacher put up the slide, and the slide contradicted what she said. And I don't remember what it was, but she
Mm.
said like so and so's theory was X and so and so's theory was Y, but it was the opposite on the PowerPoint. I was like, ma'am, your presentation says the other way around. I just want to clarify for my notes, which one is it? And like I said it super respectfully, and she's like, "Why don't you just stick to making dick jokes over there?" Because there was this table of like adult. It's community college, which I recommend everybody start at a community college. By the way, it's my
Yeah.
personal biased opinion, but at community college you have non-traditional learners, and so all of
Yeah.
us that were like, I don't know, not idiots, like we're like in this little corner, and
Hmm.
she's like, "Why don't you stick to making dick jokes over there?" And I was like,
Wow.
first of all, I'll clep this stupid class without studying. It's literally irrelevant.
Right.
He's like, you can't do that. I was like, I literally can. Watch me. And I went to the dean's office immediately. I walked out of class, went to the dean's office, and I was like,
Mm.
I'm dropping this class and I want you to refund it to the GI Bill. This teacher is unacceptable. And I told him what
Mm.
happened. He was like, huh, are you really going to take the CLEP test? I was like, yeah. He's like, if you pass it, I'll pay you for it. And so I was like, so I went to the testing center,
Sick.
like the Veterans Resource Center, scheduled the test for the next day. I don't remember what it was, like $80 or something. Next day, and to God's honor, I went to the bar that night and got lit because I wanted everybody to know that I wasn't studying. So, and so I went to the little local union bar, it was called. Got my what was it? Like 3 shots of Jameson and a pound of bacon was dinner. And
Oh my God.
they had a special meal. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it sounds like a real special meal, like a short, like a very, very, where's the helmet kind of meal.
yes, you know, that was me. So the next day I go take a lab test and I fucking pass it.
Oh my God, brother.
Dude,
That's amazing.
and I grab the receipt and I take it into that class during the class that I'm in. I'm like, if all y'all want to don't want to listen to her anymore, it only costs $80. Here's the receipt.
That's amazing. Oh, hell yeah, dude.
And then I went back to the dean. I was like, "So you're gonna pay me?" He's like, "I was until that teacher called me and told me what you did in her classroom."
Yeah, yeah.
I was like,
So
I was like,
close.
oh, he's like, yeah, that's not cool. And I was like, oh, it won't happen again, sir. He's like, okay. That community college had me come back to speak at one of their big events like a
Oh,
year.
rad.
Yeah, so it was a really cool full circle thing. She no longer
That's
was
great.
employed there, but oh man, yeah, there's a little fuck you attitude goes a long way. But
No,
this is
100%, dude. Well, that's amazing, man. Well, it's that we covered so many like tangible tips and benefits, and I think just sort of planting the seed into the minds of anyone that listens to this. And if you're a veteran, I really hope that some of this resonates with you. But even if you're not, I hope that there are takeaways about resilience and just tips for how to succeed as an entrepreneur and how to manage some of the trials and tribulations that we all face, and just having like the right toolkit, to do so. So thanks for sharing your story and everything. Do you want to talk about, maybe plug any of your companies and how people can reach you and get in contact with you? Also, do you say you had a podcast? Do you have a podcast too?
yes, and I'd love to have you on
Sick.
it.
Yeah, dude, I would
So
love that.
so when I mentioned Think and Grow Rich earlier, you resonated, you read it.
Yeah. I've read
So
it.
so just like Andrew Carnegie, tasked Napoleon Hill with interviewing these successful people, and formulating, the laws of success and ultimately the Think and Grow Rich book. Um, I'm trying to set myself on the same mission for veterans who have found
Cool.
it's not just monetary success, it's veterans who have found their next mission. How did you get to this next mission? How did you identify it? Can we create a formula? If I interview enough people from enough walks of life, I bet we can. And so that's the ultimate goal. Um, all that goes to say that's the podcast. We haven't released it yet. We've recorded a few. The first
Good for
episode that
you.
we're going to launch publicly is with a guy named Christopher Griffith, who he's a Marine vet that started Vetted VA and has like been a game changer for the way that VA home loans are done and the way lenders look at them. Um,
Oh, sick, dude.
yeah,
That's
horribly
huge.
successful dude, really cool individual. So that'll be a fun one. But no, vetclaims.ai, like the one plug that I'd love to give for us, right, is if you're a veteran and you don't think you have the rating you deserve, you think you left stuff on the table, and I guarantee you have, because let me tell
Yeah.
you, I feel like R. Kelly. I went viral for a video about pee. Did you know it's not normal to have to wake up more than once a night to go to the bathroom? Did you know that it's not normal if you have to go pee more than every 3 hours during the day, right? And almost 100% of veterans are like, wait, what? Yeah, because we all pulled guard. We all had to hold our bladders for an immense amount of time. If you were airborne, you were racked up with a chute for how many hours before you got to go pee? Not normal, leads to dysfunction. Guess what? That's 30%. That's a
Right.
giant difference in your claim. So if you think you left something on the table, come check us out at vetclaims.ai. We don't sell anything, we only educate. If we're not a fit, we'll point you to someone who is. But ultimately, yeah, that's what we're here for. I want to get you the time to think and carve the life out for yourself that you endeavor to live, because that's what I did, and I fucking love it. So, vetclaims.ai in a bottle.
Dude, I love that, man. That was such a powerful interview, such a powerful story. And I just love, I think it's inspiring on its own merit, just seeing other veterans succeed. Because a lot of guys, when they're kind of getting to that point where like, hey, I'm making a decision, I'm towards the end of my enlistment, do I go out, do I stay in? I mean, I was medically separated, sounds like a kind of a similar deal. When you're being forced out, you I don't know, you lose your reputation, and like it negatively affects you. But even if you're electing to leave, you see it all the time where you have senior enlisted guys, NCOs, that will be like, are you sure you want to do that? You realize, and then they're going to fill in the blank with some scare tactic. You're not going to find a good job out there. No one's going to do this. You're going to be freaking working for half as much as you make here doing shittier work. All these things that, because that's their anxieties. Those are that's the
They
narrative
have
that
to
they have
believe it.
told themselves. They have to believe it, dude. They are true believers. And so I think it's inspiring just to see that there is another path out there, and that it's freaking golden, man. Like there's absolutely a beautiful life that you can build for yourself. And I've achieved it through finding holistic medicine and making that my mission of how do I, spread this for other veterans, but also just people in general. Sounds like, in your case, a similar deal. You're like, I went from this dark pit, and I pulled myself out by setting goals and building the lifestyle that I want to do. So I think that's a super powerful message. Any final thoughts you want to say before we sign off?
I think you just inspired what I'm going to title my book,
What's that? I gotta hear it.
Shitbag CEO. Because I
Hey
think
man, who told you my title?
fuck.
Fuck.
Listen, we can share it, okay?
Okay, all right, it's fine. It's a big bag.
No, I mean, like what you just said is it's maybe not profound on the outside, but like in the context of this, so much is like if you feel like you exited shitty, if you feel like I wasn't a good Marine, I wasn't a good soldier, airman, seaman, whatever the hell, I hope you're a good seaman. You made it here, right? Your mom had you, but that's another joke. The like fuck that. It doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah,
You know what? I got told, and I want to share this last little piece because
yeah, please.
it's petty, but like to paint the perspective for the dudes where it's fresh. I got out in 2013. There's a commander that enabled hazing, horrendous things, stupidity. The list goes on. Fuck that guy sideways, right? Doesn't matter. He's like 5'4". Nothing against short guys. Just like he's got some Napoleon shit going on. Um, I'm a ranger though. But all that being said, yeah, I bet you made it through that ruck march. You weighed 20 pounds,
Yeah,
homie. Fuck
yeah,
off.
right. You were
Um,
the rut.
you were the ruck. Anyways, so, my old unit had a reunion a year or so ago, and I'm cool with a couple like the old platoon sergeants, other guys. And they told me that like, yeah, Captain so and so, I won't give him the credit of naming him, asked about you, and we told him how you were crushing it, man. And I've never seen the dude look so pissed.
Yes,
And
dude, love that.
I'm like, first of all, that's really sad because like you were someone who went to like West Point, a good school. I was a kid who grew up in Section 8. Even if you didn't like me or thought I wasn't a good soldier, even the dudes that I thought were absolute pieces of shit in the military, I would never hope ill against them.
Right,
So first of all,
right.
that speaks a lot to your character. But second of all, 10 years down the road, the man you are and what you've built will be all that matters. Who someone knew you
Mhm.
as a decade ago is so fucking irrelevant. It's laughable.
Right,
And I'll be
right,
honest with you, I was a dumb idiot shitbag soldier. You know why? Because I was 17. Oh my
right, right.
God. Are you kidding me? I can't hardly deal with the prospect of hiring someone under 25 these days.
Yeah,
17-year-old? Bro, what did
right.
you
Can you
expect?
imagine? Totally. Oh
like,
my God.
like, yeah. And so just if you're fresh out and you do feel like, yeah, I was a shitbag or I had this reputation, or you're letting that identity cover you, it doesn't matter. And I'll say it again, it doesn't matter. Shitbag
Right,
CEO is going
right.
to be the book title.
I love that, dude. That's solid because it's true, man. It's like you have a new, this is a fresh start. It's a new chance to reinvent yourself, and you can prove to everybody now that your value, your worth. Rather than walking around with a chip on your shoulder about, oh, I used to be a second airborne, I used to be Ranger, SF, long tab. No, it's like you're only as good as you are right now, and if what you're doing right now is up to I love it, dude. No, it's true though, you know what I mean? Like it's you gotta fucking now's your shot, because all that's in the past, dude. Everything you wore on your uniform, all your rank, all your tabs, all this, it's gone, dude. I know you as Luke, and you're that's going to be the worth that you establish is it starts now. So I love it, man. This was such a great interview. Thank you for taking the time. And yeah, I would love to be on your podcast also. I'll
Yeah.
link to vetclaims.ai in the show notes. Do you have any social medias or anything that you like to plug?
Yeah, I mean the company TikTok and Instagram, they're both thatclaims.ai.
Wait.
My LinkedIn, if like there's a veteran that is interested in entrepreneurship, resources, uh, you know, Jordan has like you've listed a few that I haven't even been fully aware of, but like feel free to hit me up if I can be of assistance. That's I will always make time for a veteran who's trying to figure out what the next step is. Always.
Yeah.
There's not a day in my life or a week in my schedule where I won't find 15 minutes minimum to have that quick meeting and set something up for the future. So reach
I love
out.
that, man.
I think that's a big point too. For all the veterans out there, there's so many people that want to see you fucking win.
Yeah, totally, dude.
Don't hold back.
Totally. It's one thing. Last thing, I'm sorry, we're gonna wrap this up, but I just want to say this. I just built a CRM kind of deal, or so I can do some mass email blasts for like business to business.
Yeah.
And the copy that I was using, I'm targeting cafes, so I'm trying to figure out, oh, how do I add this much to your bottom line? You could do this on your menu, blah blah. Doing all these, I'm like, I got to think like a business owner. I got to think like a business owner. So I talked to my other friend, veteran, and he does a lot of the stuff. And he's like, "Let me show you what has worked for my copy." First line, very simple. It's just like, "Hey, I'll keep this quick. I know time is precious, but I'm a veteran owned, blah blah blah." And he's like, "Mention that you're a veteran." And I'm like, "I know, but I don't want to feel like I'm like cheaping." And he's
Pushing it.
like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, like you're pushing it." And he's like, "People want to work with veterans, like for all the things that we said, but even beyond that, it's like they just want to see you succeed. It's the way that they in their minds can like thank you for their service and not be bullshit.
Yeah.
I care about you. I really do care about veterans. I do want
Mm.
them to succeed. I do want to support veteran owned businesses." So that's, yeah, sorry, last thing I was wanting to say on that, but there are people out there who want to see you win, so go fucking win.
I'm not gonna say anything else. Can't end it better than that.
Lucas, my dude, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. I'm gonna stop recording.